Hi, I'm Richard Seitz, alongside Angel Green for another edition of Iterations. We have had a fantastic spring, and one that has been filled with a lot of awards for some of our partnerships that we've been working on. And we're very excited to talk about those. And one in particular that I know that we want to talk about today that has won several awards already in this award season, and our fingers crossed for many more, is our partnership with AutoNation. And we went down to Fort Lauderdale, last fall?
Yeah.
And we started this partnership and did a Savvy Start and went through a project and created e-learning for sales training, and I'll let you talk a little more about that. But what we want to use this episode of Iterations for is to talk about how we incorporated our design principles of context, challenge, activity, feedback, and how we use the iterative process to ensure that happened.
Right.
So what is this course about that we did with AutoNation?
So the primary objective of this course, when we were first initiated and engaged in it, was to train their sales associates on the negotiation process. So when they're sitting down with a customer, what does that look like? What does that feel like to try to get the person to eventually buy a car? So the idea was we needed to train them on these 5 steps of negotiation that AutoNation uses with their sales associates.
And this was a very typical process start for us, that a client says, we want to train on X, and we go in and we start brainstorming and discussing it, and then we ask recent learners and managers, and what happened?
Yeah, so in that Savvy Start, we were fortunate enough to have a recent learner in the room. And as we were going through and prototyping some ideas of how we were going to treat this 5 steps of negotiation process, he says, I get the 5 steps, but what I really struggle with is, when do I ask for the sale? When do I go to my sales manager and ask them for a reduction in the price of the vehicle? When do I reference something that I had written down on my needs analysis? And what is that moment like? And so that really sparked our ideas for how we potentially could treat this.
And that's the incredible moment in a Savvy Start,
Right.
when you are having a lot of challenges to expectations, when you're brainstorming and ideas are coming up, and you have people that are in a non-traditional instructional role give feedback and thoughts that non-SME, the subject matter expert person in the room, someone that's a little bit different that deals with it day in and day out.
Yeah.
So we took that information, and that was exciting because we would have gone off and on a different tact, and we probably would have created some really great e-learning around those 5 components of the sales process, but we would have missed what's the most important, and that's making it realistic.
Right.
And so we went back in and defined context. So the context was, anytime when we're building learning experiences, the context is both a situation and a place. So we had a salesperson on the sales room floor, and they were faced with customers asking questions and having to deal with selling a certain car. Then we moved to the challenge, which is the key, because we want to put learners at risk. We want to give them realistic challenges and make it as though they're performing in their real-world jobs. So we built a challenge, and I'll let you talk about that in a little bit. We built that with an activity, and you're going to see that in a moment. But the activity is really how we create that event for the learner, and this is with e-learning. So it's on the computer and those kind of activities that they do there. And then feedback, which we really would love to call consequences, that when learners make choices in that challenge, in the context that they're set in, using that activity, that we're giving them feedback as they would in real life.
Right, right. So let's take a look at what this looks like, what this CCAF looks like. So on the screen, what you'll see is a sales associate who is sitting at their desk. You're from that vantage point. And in front of you, you're in a sales dealership, and in front of you are customers, and you're faced with the customers. So that's the context. You're in a dealership with customers in front of you.
Yeah.
The challenge is you're trying to use the 5 steps of negotiation to sell these people a car, a specific vehicle on which they have already decided that they are interested in purchasing. So you're trying to sell them the car at the highest gross or profit possible with good customer satisfaction.
And the underlying part of that challenge is using the correct sales method.
Right.
So that's kind of what we want to get them to do, but the challenge is really selling the car.
Selling the car. The activity is you can participate in a conversation with these customers in front of you. And so you'll notice on screen that there are other components of the activity. So based on that input from the recent learner, you have the availability to ask for the sale. You have the ability to go to the manager and ask for a reduction in the price of the vehicle. You have the ability to reference the needs analysis that you have already performed for this customer that's sitting in front of you. So those are alternate actions that you can take during that activity. And then the feedback, consequences. So you can see on the face of these customers in front of you that apparently you have said something that has kind of angered them. So there's not somebody that comes up and says, incorrect, try again. Instead, they're sitting there with their arms crossed with scowls on their faces, and you're getting consequences like you would in a real world environment in a simulated conversation with customers. So those are the consequences.
And they smile, and they're happy because we can't get it right. Consequences are not always negative. There could be positive outcomes.
So if you had chosen the right one, their faces light up and they are happy and engaged.
Because everybody loves to buy a car.
Right. So what happened if you clicked, ask for the sale? Somebody would say, wait a minute, it's too early, and the customers would leave and walk out. It's not the right time for me. I'm still looking around. See you later. And so you've lost the sale.
And so this is really an important training methodology that we employed here in order to get the essence of this moment that we want specifically for their sales associates.
Yes.
And so we use context challenge activity feedback during a Savvy Start to correctly identify what we've just demonstrated here in this award-winning e-learning application courseware that with our partnership with AutoNation we're able to build, and very fortunate to do so.
Yes.
If you're interested in finding out more about the successes of this course at AutoNation and its impact on their sales, look on our website at alleninteractions.com for the case study. We'll see you next time on Iterations.
Bye-bye.